Hey, let's make a really cool, beginner-friendly, no bunch beanie. And when I say no bunch, there's like a very beginner way of making a crocheted beanie, which is you just kind of like make a rectangle and you fold it, seam it together, and then you bunch up the top and you have a hat. But the top is really bulky. This is a way to have a hat that's smooth and has a really cool, beautiful look on the top of the hat, but you only need beginner skills, but trust me, it's gonna look like a lot more sophisticated product. So it's a way for you to level up your beanie without having to learn a bunch of new skills. All you need to know for this is how to slip stitch, chain, single crochet, and the back loops, and really that's kind of it. But there are some funky little steps that I'll show you along the way, and then once you know the funky step, you just repeat it. So let's get started. For this, you are going to need, I'm doing a worsted weight yarn, and I have this really super cute, this is a Lion brand Heartland tweed, and the color of this is called Mount Rainier tweed. But here's what I love about this. It's a weight 4, and it says to use a 6 hook, but I'm going to use a 5.5 because I don't want the hat to be all loosey-goosey. But depending on how you stitch, if you stitch really tight or really loose, go ahead and do whatever kind of worsted weight yarn and whatever kind of hook makes sense for you. But I love this yarn because it looks like confetti cake to me, and I love confetti cake. All right, I like to have a stitch counter. You're gonna need several stitch markers, and then, the normal stuff like a scissors and a needle for the ending. So let's start. Go ahead and make your slip knot, however you like to make that. And you're gonna wanna chain a foundation chain that is going to be the height of your hat. And roughly have the chain be from the center of the top of your head down to like where you want it to rest on your ears, like maybe halfway down your ear, and then add about 3 more inches because that will be the brim folded up. So for me, that's probably gonna be like in the neighborhood of 11-ish inches or so, probably 45-ish chains. But I'm gonna go ahead and start making my chain. I'm gonna plan to do about 45. I have a pretty small head though. You don't have to make your chain super tight, but you don't want it loose either, okay? So make a foundation chain that is going to be the right fit for the head that you want it to sit on. And I will meet you at the end of your foundation chain, and I'll show you how long my chain ends up being after I measure it up against my head. But you basically can just keep chaining until you think it's about the size you want, and literally just hold it up to your head and measure down to the side of your face and see if that seems like the fit that you want, okay? So I'll meet you back here at the end of your chain. I'm gonna plan to do 45 chains, I believe. Okay, I did 45 chains. And yeah, if I measure this in inches without like stretching it super hard, it looks like I've got about roughly, it's kind of hard to do. Come on, girl. Roughly about 11.5 inches. That's without stretching it. So that's for me. I have a pretty small head. So like I said, you do whatever size makes sense for you. So now at this point, we are going to single crochet our row 1, which is going to start in the second chain from the hook. So here's the first chain from the hook, and here's the second chain. Okay, so not here, but here. You're just gonna go ahead and insert right into the chain and do a single crochet. And if you're a very beginner, I totally suggest just go ahead and mark it. Now this is going to be the bottom of the hat, or the brim end of the hat, and where the your tail is here, that's going to be the top of the hat. So for this row 1, you are just going to single crochet in your chain all the way down the chain. Exciting stuff. You've probably done this before. If you haven't, welcome to the world of working into the chain. So just single crochet all the way down. and then I'll meet you when you've done your single crochets all the way down to this end. All right, we've completed row 1. You should have a nice little straight line of single crochets like that. At the end of every row, we are going to chain 1 and turn, and I think it's good to always turn like the page of a book from right to left. And from now on, every row will be worked in the back loop only. So we are now going to, at this end, at the end of row 1, we are at what is going to be the bottom of the hat, the brim. And that's where your starting tail is here. When you started your foundation chain, that's going to be the bottom of the hat. And so at this point, we are now going to single crochet into the back loops only. So here's your turning chain where your working yarn's coming out of here. And this would be your first stitch. So if you've never done back loop only, you just go into the center of the stitch, and that's your back loop. Each stitch has kind of like a V like that. Normally you would go in the side of the stitch through the 2 legs of the V, but this time we're going into the center of the stitch and working there, pulling up a loop and pulling through like that. And you can mark this if you would like. It's not as important on this end because it's the brim, but we're gonna do some crazy stuff down here on the top part of the hat. So go ahead and do single crochets all the way down this row into the back loop only until you have 3 stitches left. When you have 3 stitches left, you are going to stop and end your row. Okay, so I'll meet you down here and stop short of 3 stitches. Okay, we're coming to the end of row 2. And we want 3 stitches left. So here's 1, 2, 3. I have 1 more left to do. So when you have 3 stitches left in the row, stop. And this will be the end of this row. So that's the end of row 2. And just like a row, normal row, go ahead and chain 1 and turn. And single crochet. Now starting row 3. All the way down to the end, which is the bottom of your hat, the brim. So every odd number is going to be working toward the brim. Every even number will be working toward the top. And eventually you're going to be building what kind of look like a little staircase. So I'm just going to start calling these the stairs. So the even numbers will be working toward the stairs. So now you're starting your row 3. Go ahead and back loop only, single crochet all the way to the end. So there's your turning chain. Here's your first stitch, single crochet, and go ahead and mark each one of these rows down here that look like a little staircase. All right, and for this odd numbered row, number 3, you're going to work all the way to the end, the bottom of the brim. You're not going to leave 3 stitches like you did this row. So the odd number rows, you're going to work all the way to the end, and you'll have an even end, like an even straight edge down here. Okay, so I'll meet you down here at the end of row 3. We're at the end of row 3, and go ahead and do your last stitch here. And you can remove that stitch marker, and that was row 3. So you should look like this. Whoop, there it is, like that. And as the end of every row, you're going to chain 1 and turn and start single crocheting into the back loops only up toward, you can replace that stitch marker if it's helpful for you, up toward the crown of your hat. And once again, you're going to stop short of 3 stitches. So you're going to keep building your stairs. So this time, you're going to stop short here and see how it's going to build another layer of stairs. Okay, so I'll meet you here when you've single crocheted all the way down and stop short of 3 here. and this is row 4 that we're working on. Okay, here we are at the end of row 4. We're going to stop short of 3 stitches, so I have one more left to do here. Whoop. So that's leaving me 1, 2, 3. So this is the end of row 4. Gonna go ahead and chain 1 and turn. And we'll start row 5. Straight down to the brim where we'll continue the straight edge here of the bottom of the hat. So you'll see the pattern that's happening, okay? Go ahead and mark this little end of your staircase. You're going to repeat these 2 rows where, once again, the odd rows are going to work straight down until the bottom of the brim. The even rows will work straight toward the staircase and stop short of 3. And you'll repeat those 2 rows, patterns, until you get to row 9. Okay, so this is row 5 that we have going here. So when you get to end of row 9, you'll be down here at the end and the bottom of the brim end, and I'll meet you when you've completed row 9, and then I'll show you what we do for row 10. Yay! We made it. This is the end of row 9 here, and at this point, like normal, you're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to work back this way. But when we get to here, something different's going to happen. So go ahead and do your single crochets down the row toward the stairs. And when you get to the stairs, I will meet you there. And I'll show you the exciting new thing we're gonna do. Okay, meet you down here. So we made it to the end of row 10. Your piece should look like this. Okay, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stairs. The bottom of your hat, which is the brim, should be nice and even. And here we are, we just finished here, the end of row 10. And now what we're going to do is we're going to connect our stairs here. Sorry, I have it's night and I'm trying to do some lighting, so sorry if it's a little shadowy. So at this point, you can remove your first stitch marker. And what we're going to do is we're just going to hop down to each stair and single crochet into those 3s that you left open, okay? You don't have to do anything special at the end here. You're just going to go straight down to it. So here's your first stair, and you're going to single, single, single right into it. And the only special tip I'll give you is the first stitch of each stair as you go down, make that stitch extra tight because otherwise you're going to have a gap in here. So go ahead, go right into that first stitch down the stair and make this first stitch extra tight, and then go on to the second stitch and the third stitch. You can take that stitch marker out. I mean, you could probably just take them all out, and same thing. Now you're going to go down to your next stair, and 1, 2, 3, and do that first one extra cozy and tight so you don't have a gap. 2, 3, take this out. Same thing, down to this first one where you'll do extra tight stitch. 1, 2, 3. And now, actually we'll just take out this last one too. Down to your very last bottom stair and into this, you have 1, 2, 3. Don't get confused because there might be a little gap here, but you can count from the end. 1, 2, 3. Here's that first stitch you're going to go into, and be sure to make that nice and close and tight. 1, 2, 3, and that is how you're going to end row 10, and your hat should look like this at the top. Okay, cool. See how it all just came together. At this point, now at the end of row 10, this hat is just a repeat of those 10 rows. It will feel a little weird because you are going to be working down this ramp to build your stairs on top of stairs, but eventually it will work its way out to be like a hat shape, if that makes sense, because this will start to fill in, but it will be narrower at the top. I think it's a good idea at this point to count your stitches. The end of row 10, you should have the same number of stitches in row 10 as you did when you started. So if your foundation chain was, let's just say mine was 45. And remember, when you do a foundation chain, there's usually like one extra if you're single crocheting, because that's your turning chain. So I chained 45, but that means there are 44 stitches in my foundation row. And I just counted row 10 and I have 44 stitches. So it's a good idea to count and make sure that your foundation row and your final row 10 have the same number of stitches, because at the end we're going to join the hat and you have to have the same number to sew it together. So at this point, I'm going to let you go wild. All you're going to do is act like now row 11. Remember, at the end of each row, you can go ahead and chain 1 and turn. Row 11 is actually going to be the same as row 1 that you started with. So you're going to single crochet in the back loops down to the end. Then you're going to chain 1 and turn. Then you're going to single crochet all the way down to this end until you have 3 stitches. Stop there. Chain and turn, and then down to the end, back down until there are 3, back down. You're just going to build another staircase on top of the ramp that you made here. Okay, and you're going to repeat that rows 1 through 10 several times, basically until you have enough circumference to fit around the head that you want to put it on. So you know, that might be like 80 rows, it might be 90 rows. It just depends on how big of a head you want to fit this onto. But I'm going to go ahead and build the rest of my hat until it's the size that I want, till I can wrap it around and it's the circumference of my head. And then I'll meet you there and I'll show you how we're going to seam it all together. Okay, so if you are following the video, go ahead back to the beginning of row 1 and just repeat rows 1 through 10, or just look at the top of your pattern and start back at row 10 and go 1 through 10, 1 through 10, 1 through 10. Okay, and I'll meet you back here when you have enough rows to make your hat. Oh, and one other note, each time you get to the end of a row 10 section, and then you're going to start over at row 1, it's a good idea to just always count. Make sure that you have the correct number of stitches, the correct number that you started with and that you ended with here on your actual row 10, which for me was 44. Okay, so at the end of each repeat section, go ahead and count that final row. Make sure that you have 44. What I want you to do is, when you've gotten to the point where you've made your groups of 10 rows, 10 rows, 10 rows, 10 rows of the circumference of the hat that you want, before you get to your final long row that goes down the stairs, stop there. So stop short of your last row of your last group. So you should be at the bottom of the hat, down at the brim. Stop there. Leave your little staircase here, and I'm going to show you how we're going to join it together. Okay? Okay. All right, so I marked my hat with a stitch marker on the outside of the hat. So this is the part of the hat we're going to see on the outside. This is the part that is going to be touching your head. And the way you can tell the difference is where you started with your original foundation chain. It's going to be on the bottom left because you did your original chain this way. That is the front side with when you have the tail for your original chain down in the bottom left. So that is the outside of the hat. The other thing too, you can kind of tell if you look on the wrong side or the inside, see how the ends of the staircases really stick out here? They're really bubbly. So you want that on the inside because it looks a little cuckoo. Maybe you like that. You can reverse it if you want. But this is how I'm going to do it. It's a little smoother and cleaner look here with the correct side on the outside. So now we're going to join with slip stitches, and we're going to actually do the last row as the join row. So, and we're going to do it on the outside of the hat. Now, a lot of times when you make a joining seam like that on a hat, you do it from the inside and then you flip the hat right side out because you want to hide the seam. My voice is crazy. But in this case, what we're going to do, you know how each one of these, because it's ribbed like this, has this cool ridge? We're going to recreate that seam to have a more uniform look all the way around. So that's why we're going to join it from the outside. So with your correct outside facing out, fold your hat in half like this. All right, so be sure your hat is like this. We're going to work right to left. Here's the staircase. And your working yarn is here. You're going to use this loop. So that last single crochet that you did in this row, you don't have to do anything special to it. Just stop when the stitch is done. You don't have to chain one. You don't have to do anything to it. We're going to use this working loop. And here is your original tail from your foundation row here. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to go through the two legs, like the V, on this side of the foundation chain. And then on this side, we're going to join with a slip stitch, but only to the back loops only of this single crochet row. So here, 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 the back loops, okay? And we're going to use this working loop to get started. So go in through the original part of your foundation chain, go through, okay, here's your working yarn coming out of there. So here's the last stitch. So this would be the corresponding stitch on the other side. Go through the back loop only. And now take that working yarn loop and put it on your hook. And you're going to pull it through for the first slip stitch, basically, kind of like a modified slip stitch. Okay, like that. This tail, we can just weave it in later, so don't worry about it. So now let's go on to the next. Keep this fairly tight. You don't want the seam to be bulky or weird. We don't want anything weird. So go through the two legs of the chain and then the back loop only of the corresponding next stitch here. Pull through all of that and slip. Let's do the next one. Through both legs of the chain, back loop only, pull through, slip stitch. Go through the chain, back loop only, pull through and slip stitch. So go all the way down like this, and you might at some point also want to just stop and check, make sure that you're lined up right, because you don't want to get to the end and realize you didn't have the right amount of stitches down here. Okay, so stop periodically and count each side, make sure you have enough stitches to come out evenly up here. And then we're going to just continue this all the way through, even on these little stairs. But I'll meet you here before the stairs to walk you through that, just to show you how that's going to look. And then I'll show you how to finish the top. See you back here in a minute after you come all the way down here. Okay, so we're getting close to our stairs here, and you should have a seam that is looking like this, all right? Now, remember, this is the outside of your hat. And the whole point of doing this is to mimic these ridges. So you can see it blends in pretty well. I had originally tried this hat doing the seam on the inside because that's normally what you do when you seam a hat together like this. And it looked bad. There was like a big space here where it looked like it was missing a ridge. So this is a way of fixing it, and that's also why we're only going through the back loops only of the one side, because I don't want it to be too thick. I want it to look like these ridges. Okay, so almost to the end here. We're just to the our little staircase, and it feels weird, but we're gonna just keep doing the exact same thing. So let's finish up the end of this row here. And also, this is a really, if you haven't done it yet, this is a really good chance to count each chain that you have left, and then the stairs. Make sure you have an even number, because you do want to be able to end together here. If for some reason it's uneven, hopefully it's only by like 1, it's pretty easy to just go back a little bit. You can either go all the way back and like recount and see that if you just accidentally missed one, but you may have at some point like missed a stitch or something, and that's fine. It's not the end of the world. Don't redo your entire hat. Yarn is really forgiving. The easiest way is to just skip one down in here on whichever side that you need to, where you have an extra one, and I promise you, you really won't be able to see it. Okay, just make sure it's cozy and tight in there. But yeah, count and make sure that you have the correct corresponding number to the very end. All right, okay, pause and do that if you got to do it. So, okay, so we're going through the back loop here, slip stitching, because I mean, I had to count, I had to go back and count, and I was off at one point. I feel like whenever you watch tutorial videos and they're seaming together something like this, they all act nonchalant, like, you know, just slip stitch through to the end. It's not that easy. You really do have to count and make sure. So don't feel bad if you're off at this point. You'll figure it out, okay? But the bottom line, things don't have to be perfect. They just have to look right. Don't kill yourself if you have to fudge it a little bit to fake it till you make it. Okay, so here we are to the first stair. So we did the last stitch of the top of that row. And we're same thing like we did before. We're just going to go skip down to the 1, 2, 3, skip down 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and just same thing, slip stitch into the back loops. Okay, so go through your chain here. And make sure you don't accidentally go into here, the corner of the stair. You want just the 3 stitches. So if it's easier, you can count in from the end. But here's the back loop of the first one. So slip stitch through, and make sure you do this slip stitch nice and tight, because that's the first stair. You don't want it to be a hole. Into the next one. So you're just doing the same thing, but you're just combining, right, your staircase. So now we're going to go down, and there's 1, 2, 3 right there, back loop. Same thing, make this one nice and tight, slip stitch through. I was really happy when I figured out how to do this, because I played around with it for like 3 or 4 times, like taking it apart and trying different ways to make it look the most seamless. And this seems to be the winner. So I'm all proud of myself. Down. Okay, so now we're going down. 1, 2, 3. These are the second to last stair stitches. Make a nice tight slip stitch there. 2, 3. Oops, I guess I should finish that. 3. And now you should have 3 and 3 left on each side. If you end up uneven here, I suggest just frogging back to somewhere in here and just make your little fudge correction back here. You don't want to do it up here, because you want this to look nice and matching to the other staircase areas. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 left. Okay, and then I'll show you how we close the top. But seriously, you guys, like, don't beat yourself up if you have to go back and like change it a little bit. It's okay. All right, you can see like these are loose because I tried so many different ways. And here's the last one. Go through. Is that it? I'm gonna go through here. And here's the last back loop only. And the final slip stitch. Yay! And then look at that, how great that looks. It really blends in pretty well. And then when you fold up your brim at the bottom, that also blends in pretty well, doesn't it? Nice, nice, nice. I'm proud of this hat. Okay, now we are gonna just finish off the end. So the way to do this is go ahead and leave a tail to sew. You don't need a lot, but just pull that through. And of course I made a video of finishing the top of the hat, and I forgot that we are on the right side already. So where we seamed up is the outside of the hat. So we want to flip it and finish the top of the hat from the inside. So got your tail threaded, go through the hole in the top of your hat, flip your hat. So this, now when you flip it, this is the inside. So this is where you want to finish seaming and closing up the hole here. So I'm just going to take this and weave it in kind of down below a little bit, below the top. You don't want to put it in the very top strands. You want to go down a little bit so that it has a little more hold. Go ahead, just go through, all the way around. Totally not in frame, sorry. Just go through wherever seems to make sense to you, and you'll get back to where you started. And just pull it nice and tight. At this point, I like to flip it just to make sure that I like the way it looks on the outside. Whoa, try not to lose my needle. Yeah, it's nice and closed up on the top. So go ahead and flip it back around to the inside of the hat. And let's finish this up. So pull that nice and tight. And then I'm going to even just go around a little more like this, just to make sure I got everything together and closed up. Around, and then I'm gonna make a knot here. Pull that tight, and then I'm gonna weave in this end. Just kind of run it down through here a little bit, and then back up a little bit. Like so, and I'll flip our hat back around, and there's our closed top. Looks great. So that's the outside of the hat. I think it looks fantastic. Yay. So you can wear it like this for like a more slouchy look, or you can fold up your brim to have a more fitted look. And that's it, you guys, you did it. That is your super awesome looking hat. And once it's all together, you really almost like, you gotta look for where the seam is, but I think it has a really great uniform look. The finish, there's the seam there. So I hope you enjoyed making this hat. If you liked the video, please like, share, comment, subscribe, all those good things. Thank you so much. And if you'd like the written instructions for this pattern, you can find them on my Etsy shop, which is lobsterknits.etsy.com. All right, guys, thank you so much. Enjoy your hat. Bye.